Hi, this is Randy Randall of No Age and host of the podcast Hyphenate with Randy Randall. I want to welcome our newest sponsor of the show, DistroKid. DistroKid helps musicians get their music on all the major streaming platforms, and artists keep 100% of their royalties. Hyphenate listeners get 30% off at distrokid.com/VIP/hyphenate. Again, that's distrokid.com/VIP/HYPHENATE. Go get your music streaming everywhere now. What's happening? Thanks for listening to Hyphenate with me, Randy Randall, my good friend, Mr. Aaron Farley. How are you doing this morning, this Monday?
This morning is great.
Yeah, Monday, June 24th. Did everybody have a good Fortnite Metallica concert weekend? How many times did you watch Metallica on Fortnite, Mr. Aaron Farley?
Oh, was that this weekend? Oh, I'm kind of surprised Towns missed it. Actually, he told me about it. But I don't think he played. He's regressed, and he's been playing Lego Fortnite this whole weekend.
Whoa!
Did you know this is a thing?
No, I didn't.
This is
I'm surprised.
a new thing in Fortnite that they have, like Lego Fortnite, and it's almost kind of a mix between Fortnite and Roblox.
Okay,
because it's Lego, so they don't like kill anybody, so they build stuff. And I was like, really, Lego?
That
Fortnite?
sounds kind of cool.
Yeah, it's really fun.
Well,
yeah.
Well,
you can
let them know
Metallica
that
Fortnite.
You can let them know that that's on Saturday, June 22nd. They played 3 shows, and then on Sunday, June 23rd, they played 4 shows.
I see,
which I think were the same
yes.
3 shows. Yes, you could let him know that he missed that this last weekend.
That it was amazing, and it was
I think it was incredible. I think my kids both really enjoyed Metallica. I saw them walking around the house the week before singing Master. I'm like, wait a second, how do you guys know what Metallica is? And they're like, oh, they're gonna be on Fortnite. You can like play a thing, like you can be the band and like play like a version of like Rock Band, where you have to like press the buttons. They wanted me to do it because I knew I played guitar.
Wow.
So you should be really good at this. I'm like, this has nothing to do. I don't know what this is. I'm like, gotta press the 4 buttons as the things come down the fretboard. I remember Rock Band format, but that is hard.
They're like,
Dad, hard
look,
to do.
This is what you do.
Yeah. Yes. I stand on like 80 foot tall pillars with 6 other musicians, and we throw lightning bolts out of our fingers at each other when we get the right notes. I do that all the time.
Yeah, it's pretty normal.
Yeah, it's a normal DIY punk gig.
Do they? They're walking around the house going, yeah. Dad, listen, yeah.
So I always wanted. I remember the years ago.
Look how long I can make my vocals.
I remember there was the Madonna Bees, which was like Mike Watt's Madonna band, or like Chacona Youth. You know what I mean? Where it was this kind of like hip thing. Chacona Youth was like Sonic Youth and Mike Watt covering Madonna songs, right? It was in the 80s. Yeah. It was just, I loved the sort of the like immediate like high art, low art kind of thing, or like pop sensibility covered by the underground, like embraced. It was a very Andy Warhol sort of feeling thing. Anyway, I remember being on tour and I was like, there really should be like a Madonna songs in the style of Metallica, and I had a good name for it. I forget what it was. Madonica. Does that sound right? It'll come back to me, but I always thought it'd be good. Like Papa don't preach. I've been losing sleep. Yeah, that was my favorite part.
I mean, it's pretty interesting. I think that when I was shooting photos for, like, when MySpace was big, right? Like MySpace secret shows. Our friend Isaac and Trevor did secret shows, and Jeremy and I both photographed most of them.
Mm-hmm.
And it was in this time where the emo bands were becoming popular. Like, popular. And I remember sitting and watching some emo band with hair blown out of the back of their head, and and I was like, this is just pop music. At that point, it was like it could have been like a Miley Cyrus song, or like like Katy Perry or whatever, but it just had like a little more screaming to it, and it had,
hi guys, I'm really sad. I got feelings. I hate my dad.
But they were so catchy.
Yes.
And it was written like, I'm like, oh, these are kids that grew up with pop music, and
Yeah.
they don't have the same like, oh, we're going to become punk, and we're, whatever, like punk songs, even when you look back at them now. And then I think before we were talking about Bruce Springsteen and all that. And if you put all of that stuff that was happening in New York together at that time, you go, oh, this all kind of makes sense. It was just all really marketed differently. But song wise, you can see Blondie and Bruce Springsteen happening at the same time in the same city, and going like, oh yeah, if you spiced this one up a little bit and put some more like 80s guitar to some of those like
Mm-hmm.
Bruce Springsteen songs, they could be like punk songs or something that would happen at CBGB's or something.
Oh my god. Right. Oh yeah, like you could go
I don't
either
know where
way with
that
them.
came
Like a
from.
good song. Yeah, yeah. Well, I think there was like a whole resurgence of like Bruce Springsteen inspired bands. I think it was like the National or the Hold
Oh, for
Steady or
sure.
something. There was kind of an indie rock sort of like embracing of like earlier Bruce Springsteen, like pre Born in the USA sort of songwriting
Definitely.
stuff. And I think that even
It's
carried over
it's
into like
just
the
like
pop punk, the New
nerdier.
Jersey like earnest working man's kind of ballads.
Totally.
Yeah.
Just nerdier, more glasses,
Right.
less leather jackets.
Right. I remember when we went to South by, or not South, what's the one, the movie one, Sundance. We went there, and the guy from Death Cab from Cutie did like a solo acoustic, unplugged kind of thing. And
Uh-huh.
but he played a Michael Jackson song, and it was kind of that funny sort of, I mean, like, oh, isn't this, it's kind of ironic and kind of heartfelt, like song, just, it's a song everybody knows, but just means more when I play it so stripped back. You're like, I don't know. I
Yeah,
don't know
it's a
what's going on
little
exactly,
more
but
emotional.
but the idea, yeah, just crossovers or those, I think it's just, you never know where the irony sits, I suppose. That's the thing where it's like an ironic cover is always kind of fun, or an earnest cover, like, that guilty pleasure sort of cover, I think is fun.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think
And I
I don't
think
think that's even part of a conversation anymore. I think everyone's just like, it's just a good song. It's just good music. Like maybe we'll get
yeah, it's
rich.
weird.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's weird too because I think that music and all sorts of culture were so separated. I mean, even when we were kids, everything like punk and metal were two completely different things.
Yeah.
And pop punk was different than punk punk, and skate punk and California punk was different than East Coast hardcore, and like all those things. It was so separated. And so when you would hear one of those bands that, sorry, my cat is walking behind my computer right now. He loves this. When I won't let him out, he
I'm gonna fuck with
paces
your
and goes
camera.
around the computer. But that you would hear a band like, oh, this band is gonna play a funny cover of like Britney Spears,
Right.
and you go, oh my god, that's genius, that's hilarious. It's you're totally taking this new thing, but now everything is so just happening all together all at the same time that
Just
when
kind of the
people do that, you
flattened.
go,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. Yeah, everything is flat. You sent me
Like,
that thing, right? Like the flattening of culture,
oh yeah, yeah.
where it really is like it's interesting because everything now is just kind of comfortable. Like
Mm-hmm.
even when you go to a new town, you're like, well, there's going to be the cool coffee shop. Let's just find the cool coffee shop that has like the the modern lettering and the tiles on the side of the on the wall, and the coffee kind of tastes the same, and the baristas look like baristas everywhere. Even in New York, like even when I remember going to New York, and let's see, the first time I went was in 90 something, 98, 99, and I was assisting for a photographer named Morgan Henry from Portland, and I was so nervous to go to New York because I wasn't cool enough. Like I didn't have any like cool clothes. I just wore like t-shirts and
You
kind
didn't
of
have
some like
you didn't
slightly
have
baggy
diesel
jeans.
jeans.
And
You didn't have your diesel jeans and
no,
your Tom Hardy
but I was
rhinestone
so
T-shirt.
worried.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had been in Portland, and I was even worried to go to Portland from Spokane, right? Because I was like, oh man, all the kids in Portland, like you show up and everyone's got like cool like button ups from the thrift store, and their hats like they have the right trucker hat or whatever it was, and I'm like, oh man, where do I get all this stuff? I don't know all the right bands, and how am I gonna how am I going to make it here in big bad Portland? And then going from Portland, I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to New York. What am I going to do in New York? What kind of shoes do I don't have any good,
what do I do
cool
with my
shoes.
hands? I don't even know where I put my
Like
hands.
yeah. What do I do when I walk down the street? And I'm like, and you're like, it was so different. It just felt like, even when showing up in New York, I was like, I have never seen any of these clothes. I've never heard of any of these bands that are playing. And it was so separated because there was nowhere to get all of that information. I mean, you could get it from zines or magazines, whatever, but then you get this little snippet of some place that a person talked about in an interview or something. And now you go to New York or you go to any of those places and you're like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm also older, so I don't care as much, but it doesn't seem as different as it did. Like, people don't look like, people kind of dress the same everywhere now. Everyone gets their clothes or their inspiration, I guess, online. And so you have your like even up here in Arrowhead, you have your like anime kids, and you have your punk, like kind of punk kids, and you have your jocks but at the same time, it's like everybody's kind of like, there's not that separation. Like, even like the weirdos that feel uncomfortable and they wear all the weird clothes and ripped up and everything, like, people aren't as shocked. The other kids aren't as shocked as I remember people being shocked of weirdos when I was a kid. It's like the weird kids, you're like, wow, where do they find those clothes? Do they rip their own clothes up? Wait, what's going on with their hair? Is their hair blue? Oh my God, wait, what's going? And you're like, wow, how do they even make those decisions? I don't know. Like, but now everyone's like, oh yeah, I don't know. That's the anime kids. Or that's the, like, I feel like everything is like that kind of stuff that was kind of shocking or different when we were kids. People just see it online now or whatever. They hear all those bands and they're like, oh yeah, I like Deftones, but I also listen to country. What? Yeah. No, Taylor Swift and Deftones. Those are my two favorite bands right now.
Mm-hmm.
And then also, I also like Kendrick Lamar. Like, wow.
Well,
okay. I'm all in. Go for it, kids.
Well, that's a great transition to our interview last week with Bothering the Band. We were saying before we jumped on that, the one thing that I'm fascinated by, and also just entertained and alienated by, is just the openness of Abby and Ryan. They're so sweet and so nice, and I was trying to explain this in nicely in the interview, but they just like everything, and I'm just like, I don't really understand. I don't think I know anybody that just likes everything. I was never a person that liked everything. I don't think it was ever seen as like a thing, but at the same time, I can respect that and I can appreciate it, because I think they are passionate and they are fans of things. I don't think they're putting it on. I think that'd be my first sort of like cynical, sort of take of like, oh, well, they're just doing that because they want to, get more listeners, or they don't want to offend anybody, or it's just like, you can't really like everything. But I honestly think they just have a very eclectic taste in music. And I said before we started that I don't even know how they found No Age, but I think it's a testament that, our band was marketed widely during the Sub Pop years, that we would even come across the radar of people. But I also think Ryan's digging deep, and he's finding lots of underground stuff. Most of the bands on there I don't know, and it's not because I'm out of certain things, but I just don't know things. And I think he's just finding bands that are, and celebrating them, and really like giving them a spotlight. And I think that's cool. I do respect it, but it also I was getting such a kick out of talking to them. I was like, wait, once I understood that they can't talk about anything political, it really, it was really catnip for me. I'm like, wait, what can you say? I was like, felt like they were like my like toy. I'm like, well, can you say this? Could you say this? What can I get you to say on the mic that you wouldn't? I was like, it's my podcast. No one's, you're not going to offend your audience. This is my audience. You can offend my audience. If you've ever been offended by the show, please write in. I would love to hear and what I've done to offend you.
Have we said anything offensive?
I hope so. Something.
I mean, I got the sense that they are kind of like lovers of music and could find those bands. I mean, even when they were bringing up 311, I was like, I used to love 311. when because I was like, I got all my music from like snowboard videos
Right.
for a while, right? Like that was my intro into kind of quote unquote punk rock, was because before that I listened to all kind of classic rock, and then like Zeppelin and Rush and Moody Blues and like Rolling Stones, and everything from the 60s to the 80s, rock and roll. And then
Mm-hmm.
and then didn't get into other genres until like snowboard movies. And then it was pop punk. It was all like Bad Religion, No Effects, 311, whatever. California. Is it 311 from California?
They
I don't
have
know.
to
They
be.
seem like they should
They
be.
sound very
They
cute.
have to be, right?
Ooh, amber is
If
the
they're
color
not,
of your energy. Oh.
right? I love that.
And then they got the breakdown, the
And
guy
then,
that just raps when you got to wait for the
oh,
rap part.
totally.
I'm like,
And then, but now someone did a story. I don't know. It was on some podcast a while ago that 311 now just has like a weekend festival every year, and they just play on their, like, I
on
feel like one
March
of them
11th.
has like a huge ranch or something, and they probably, yeah,
Yeah.
probably March 11th or April 20th. It would
Oh,
be
I see.
it would be one of those.
Okay.
But that they just do this huge thing every once a weekend every year, and that's the only show that they play, and like 100,000 people come show up, and they have other bands play or something, and that's how they just, like, yeah, this is how we do it, and we make enough money for the rest of the year, and we're good.
That's
And it's
hilarious.
genius. I love it. But I do love that, like them bringing up those bands, and just being like, yeah, this is, we like these bands. She also wanted to interview Adam Durowitz, which I
Oh,
love.
right. Yes.
Our friend Neil, the big joke always is that his favorite band is Counting Crows. It's like punk rock Neil loves Counting Crows and Pearl
Yep.
Jam also. So
There you go. Sure.
you
Yep.
guys talked about Pearl Jam a lot. Yeah, I think that's like,
Well,
I think it's great.
I think it's cool because I could definitely respect, especially as I get older. I think when I was a kid, I was more of an outright dick, and I never thought I was. I just always, I've had that. I guess I had that like kind of chip on my shoulder of feeling like part of an underground kind of thing, or that nobody liked the music I liked. So then I kind of became a dick about it, which was fine. You know what I mean? Or like nobody needed to know what but I think I was purposely listening to very like obscure music, and then I would be like, "Oh, you don't like this music?" Well, yeah, no, I don't know what the hell you're listening to. Like nobody's, I mean, but I had this very kind of self-superior sort of sense of underground sort of credibility.
Of course, you would never get this.
Right? Yeah, yeah. But then also I think I also in my adolescent, sort of like narcissism, like wore this like, no, well, I'm the victim kind of thing. Like I'm like nobody knows what I'm like, and so then I felt that earned me the right to sort of shit on everybody else's music because nobody liked my music. You know what I mean? In a way, or something. I think I felt I did. You don't know you're the bad guy in the story. The bad guys think they're right. You know what I mean? Like I didn't think I was wrong, but now I think if I had to look back on it, go, oh, you're probably kind of a dick. I'm like, oh yeah,
But
I
that's
guess I
what you're
was.
supposed to do.
I just
That's what
didn't
you're
know.
supposed to do as a kid. I think like
totally.
the whole thing is like you're building this shield, this emotional shield for yourself to like keep all the other people out and only bring in the people that you like and that like your stuff, and you make a group of those people, and then you go out to like conquer the world, right? With your with your group of like, we're metalheads. So what do metalheads wear? Okay, we wear jeans and we wear pony high tops that are half laced.
So the
and we
thrash
have
guys,
ripped up shirts, and we have, whatever. And like, I don't know, man, that's thrash. Oh shit, maybe I'm a thrash guy. Okay, let's go find the thrash guys.
Yeah.
Right. And like, let's find, and like the whole time. And you think, like you said, you think you're right. Like I look at half that stuff, even like our old radio show, I'm like, yeah, I don't want to listen to any of that anymore that Jeremy and I did, because I'm like, as fun as it was, and as much as people loved it, and like we loved it, and it was so great, I'm like, oh, it must have been like we probably said the worst stuff because we were just like in
you're
our
kids
20s,
and you're drinking
and we
beers
had
and
so
talking
many
shit.
great ideas and how much everybody else sucked, and how great everything that we did was, and
yeah, of course.
but we also, like, through those things we built, like we became a group of people. I don't know, we did, it wasn't that thing, but it attracted a lot of people that were in bands, and creative people, whatever. And then we all did a bunch of stuff together. We like shot each other's photos of each other's records, and our band ended up opening up for other bands, and because of that, it's like
Yeah.
it just became this like this big this group of people that ended up working with each other to do a bunch of creative stuff.
I
Like,
think you're
or
right
during that time even.
in that sense too, especially when you're young. It's like the more specific and more subdivided and more, hyper specific about your tastes and your identity you can be, you're limiting that group. And at that time, that's good, because you don't want to just, you're trying to define the pathway and find those friends who can sort of, guide you along that road to the future that you like, that you think you'll be happy with, and not, I think, so that it felt like a positive value to be ultra specific in your tastes and be ultra defined. So that's why when I come across somebody or I talk to somebody who's like, I like everything, I'm wide open as can be, I'm just like, that's offensive to me. Like the whole point of our youth was to be so specific. Like if you're just wide open and love everything, then you might become an accountant. You might become somebody that has an uninteresting, unexamined life. How could you ever live with yourself if you have not, like defined yourself down to the breadcrumb of interests and gone deeper than that, and then found the influences of the influences and have the original source text, the tabula rosa of uniqueness that makes you the perfect little snowflake that you're meant to be in your adult years. These are the types of journeys I think I was on this was what my adolescent journey looked like, and as an adult and now as a father of people about to enter into this thing, I can have a third party perspective on this, and certainly my life is no longer as hyper divisive as it was at that time. However, I have a unique set of skills. I have a unique set of interests that have been built brick by brick by all of these just minutia of things. And does it serve me well? Is it valuable? I have no idea now that I look back on this.
Well, I mean,
you know what I mean? It worked to get me here, but what do I do with it now? Yeah.
Well, and part of the way that you've set up your life is that you have to know what you like and don't like, because you're creating things. You're not creating things in the sense of like, oh, I just want to make things, man. You're
right.
like,
I'm not making
no,
right. Exactly.
I have a goal, even if it's undefined, but I have like a journey that I'm on, and these things fit into that journey and these things don't fit into that journey. And it's okay. And also, like, how do you know who you are if you don't know what you hate?
Right. That's an easy way.
I mean,
Step one, define what you hate. That eliminates a lot of things.
And move away from that.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
an easy way to do it. Yeah.
Talk about what you hate all the time.
Right. Yep.
Yes.
And then eventually,
because that will get you. That's what gets you popular, and then you go from there.
Then you can start to go with what you like.
But it is funny. It is funny because I'll be like, now, there's times where I'm like, oh, I'll hear something and I'm like, oh, I gotta send this song to Lila or whatever, because I'm like, oh, she'll love this song. And I'm like, oh, did you get that song? She's like, meh.
Oh,
what? Wait, no, but this is a good song. She's like, I mean, I don't know. I'm sure you like it.
Oh, like, burn.
Man. Wow. Okay.
Shut down.
And she's like, it kind of sounds like blah blah blah, but I don't know. It's a little mid. Like, wow. Thanks. Please tell me your honest opinion.
Yeah.
Now I'm heartbroken and I'm going to go walk away.
Yeah. No, but it's good. But that's what she needs to do, right? She has to define it. And that's great. She has an opinion and she can express it. That's awesome.
And I'm proud of her. I'm like, yeah, okay. Yeah. I know. Okay. I'm just going to go listen to my mid music. Yeah. All right.
Oh no.
But by the way, hold on. There was one thing that I wanted to bring up that I forgot to bring up last week.
Oh, yes.
When you were talking about crazy, like no age stuff, and you were trying to think, you were like, I don't know, what was the craziest thing that we did or whatever. A thing that popped into my head was that I remember watching, it was like the Teen Choice Awards or something. and you guys came out on the stage and like announced a band or announced, and I was like, holy shit, is that Randy and Dean? I don't know why I was watching it. Maybe I knew you were going to be, I don't know. But I was like, oh my God, it's Randy and Dean. And you guys ran out to the front of like some finger of a stage out in the middle of like a huge coliseum. And you're like, hey, this is from No Age. And Dean didn't say anything. And you were out there and you said something. And I'm like, how the fuck did this happen? Do you remember this? Is this something you remember?
I do. I like your version of it better. Yeah.
Well,
do you want me to tell you what it was? Or I mean,
yes,
I like the way you.
Yes, I want you to tell you what.
So
yeah, tell me what it was.
So there was a MTV. You know, at some point was created to make music videos. Right, it was a music video television station. I have to just say this because that's not what they do now. That's not. I don't know if you've put MTV on in the last 30 years, but they don't.
If there is even MTV.
They don't play music videos. But originally that was the idea. You had music on music television channel. That's what the M in MTV stood for. So at some point in 2008, when we were promoting the Nouns record, our first record for Sub Pop, it coincided with the time where MTV had this radical idea that they were going to play music videos again for like one night. They were going to have a music video show. It was going to be like a throwback kind of thing. Like, whoa, what if we did this wild idea? We actually played music videos on MTV. And so the show was called FN MTV, like Friday Night MTV. This was the show where they would play music videos, but they couldn't just play music videos because that's boring, and they've tried desperately to never do that. But they were going to have a whole live experience where the bands would come on, and almost like a Total Request Live TRL, thing. And the bands would talk to the host, and then they would talk about their new music and how cool they are, and then throw it to the music video, and they play that. So this show, FN MTV, Friday Night MTV, was hosted by our good friend Pete Wentz of the pop punk band Fall Out Boy. I think which kind of falls into that emo, from punk to just pop music. So Pete Wentz was a very popular guy with a haircut and tattoos, and so he was a popular personality of the time. He didn't even sing; he's like the bass player of the band. He's like the whatever.
But he wrote all the songs.
Nikki Sixx. Well, we later find out, I forget if I've done this interview or not, but the guy from Cold Cave, Wes actually wrote all the songs. They stole all his lyrics and his songs from. He had a band called American Nightmare in Chicago, and they ended up just hiring him because they ripped off all of his music anyway and gave him $1 million, and then just said, "Hey, will you write our next record for us?"
Oh, anyway, that's amazing.
That's a whole other thing. But so Pete Wentz is a celebrity, and we're asked, we're being promoted by Sub Pop, and that was part of the power that Sub Pop had, was they could pull these levers. They're Sub Pop's 49% owned by Warner Brothers. They are, in all intents and purposes, a major label whenever they want to be a major label, and then they can also be an indie label whenever they want to be an indie label. This is sort of the chameleonic nature of the Sub Pop machine. So we were there, and they're promoting us. They're like, "Hey guys, we have access to MTV." We pitched your video because they just do all this stuff, and so they were like, "Do you want to go do it?" And it was in Hollywood. It's funny. It's right off of like, that area in between Highland and Vine, just north of Melrose. There's like like a DMV back there, but there's like studios space. It's kind of, now they're all art galleries, is what it turned into. But it used to be kind of like, manufacturing or prop houses or like weird, rental warehouses. But I think there's big studios hiding back there. So there's a big studio, and it's great because it was only like 5 minutes from where Dean and I were living at the time. We were off Melrose and La Brea, and this was just like 4 blocks away. So there was this studio, and we go in there, and it's insane. So the idea is we're going to go walk on stage and talk to Pete Wentz and tell him, "Hey, we got a video called Eraser. This is us. Ta-da." And then go do that. And everybody from Sub Pop flew down, our PR person, our marketing person, everybody's there. And so we're like, okay, like this is that funny moment of getting to be, this type of rock stars sort of experience maybe. But we didn't know. But I was so excited because I knew it was coming up, and we were on tour somewhere like in Milwaukee or the Midwest somewhere. And I found we don't go to thrift stores, so I found this zip ups like heather gray sweatshirt that had like puffy glitter paint all over it. It looked like a grandma had made. And I thought, this sweatshirt is so great. This like zip up, which is a big, like gaudy kind of Jackson Pollock meets grandma style. I thought that was very hip for the time. I was like, I'm going to wear this on MTV. This is going to be very cool. I thought,
Yeah.
kind of representing a sort of the type of culture that I thought we were coming from. And so I wore that, and it was very cool. So it was almost like oversized and big. So it had this kind of almost strange sort of hip hop grandma strange thing. I don't think it was really well defined or necessarily part of a style I was cultivating, but I thought that was cool. And so I remember wearing that. And so but we get there, and it's the other. So the lineup of music is, so Pete Wentz hosting, and No Age is going to go on, and then this new singer, Rhianna, was going to go on. She had a song that was very popular. I think she went on. To do some great stuff, and then Maroon 5. Were the most popular band in the world, but Dean kind of knew them from some world. I think the bass player was a cool guy that would hang out with cool people.
I had met them previous through something, because they were like LA guys that were just playing music.
So it was No Age, Rhianna, and Maroon 5 were on this this Friday night show.
Amazing.
And so it wasn't a huge stadium. It was this, it was a warehouse studio thing, but there was fans, there was kids there, and it's and it's whatever, 2:00 in the afternoon, and you're just like you're shooting a TV show, and it's a funny thing, and And so it was so I remember we went back, and this was also pre-Instagram. It wasn't a selfie sort of culture. Like, I don't think we took pictures backstage or did anything. I think maybe we had a blog. There might be some blogness somewhere around that time, but it wasn't really like, oh, I got to get a selfie. Like, somewhere there's a picture of us with Maroon 5 and Rhianna. I don't know who took it. I don't know where it is, but it existed. But yeah, so then we go out. So it's our turn. They like, okay, guys, go run out there. And literally was that thing of all the kids on the stage. And I remember I did the thing where you do the row of high fives, like good game after a soccer game, you could like do like, just run your hand along the crowd. Like, yeah, what's up? I was just like, I decided, I was like, this would just be really fun to play along. I think we're hyperly not where we're supposed to be. This is uncomfortable and not really our world. However, when given the opportunity to be silly, I was not shy about that kind of stuff. I thought that'd be really funny. I sort of took the Chris Novoselic approach to stardom in moments, just like, this is stupid. Let's go have fun. Let's just go. It's a party. Let's go have fun. And so we went out there, and I don't know what we really said. And that was it. And it was really fun. And we went to like a Mexican restaurant after and had margaritas, and it was really fun. But years later, I would see somebody, maybe a year, maybe not a full year later, 6 months later, I saw somebody had printed out a picture of us with Pete Wentz, like holding microphones, like looking like douchebags. And they printed up pages and wheat pasted them in the front of the Smell. Kind of like, fuck you guys. Like, you guys sold out. Which God. Again, you know what I mean? I don't think anybody noticed.
That's good. That's how existed. You know you made it.
But exactly, I think we officially, like, it was acknowledged that we had come so far, but we'd still pissed off somebody, which was great.
Yeah. Well, if someone takes the time to do that, and then you look at that poster and you're like, yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. But I
did hold a microphone and look like an idiot with a big puffy sweater. I talked to the guy from Fall Out Boy. That's for that sin. I will pay. I will pay for that, the sin of wearing a dumb sweater on national TV and talk to Fall Out Boy. Sure, why not?
Bands get it the worst out of anybody. They're like, I think it's because people hold their music so dear to their heart that they feel like your band or your music becomes part of their, whatever. It's like that shield that you're talking about at the beginning. It's like you become a part of that shield. And then the second that you see something and like, okay, well, I like this band because of these standards. They hit all these points, and it's about the music, but it's also about who I am and what kind of music I listen to and the standards that and then when one of those bands does something that's not on the list, you're like, you just put a hole in my shield. That makes me angry and sad. And as a band, I mean, I'm sure that you go like, as much as I want to be a part of your shield, I got my own shield to deal with. And you're making up a lot of weird rules for me that we never made up. I feel like I remember hearing, like, Ian Mackay getting asked these questions all the time, and you hear those interviews. He's like, I don't give a shit what kind of music people listen to, and I don't care. Like, please, if you think it's great for your band to sign to a major label, please do it. I don't care. People keep thinking that I care about all this stuff. I do not care about any of these things.
Yeah.
I chose a different path because it makes sense for me. That's all I care about.
Yeah. 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 You have to do what's right for you.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
funny.
and
Yeah.
as the years would go on, I mean, and recently, with, I spoke to a friend, who was in another band around that time, and he had this, he shared with me his personal point of view, which he just was like, he was telling me this is just how it was. But I'm like, I think that's your experience. I think you're expressing a very unique personal experience here. But he felt like because of No Age's ambition that we really sunk the smell in some sort of way, or whatever the scene was, because by us being so ambitious and going after all of these opportunities, that it somehow made it feel like other bands who were similar to us or we played shows with, if they didn't also go out for these things, that they weren't seen as being as good. And I never said, I don't, you know what I mean? I never would have said that or felt
Yeah.
that, or it was, but I could understand it, and I could empathize with that. And I could see how that would make it uncomfortable for somebody else. If, this band, like, wow, they're really going for it and they're really doing all these things. I, I think the other side of it too was that there was a lot of it, whatever attention. And again, we're talking, we're slicing up a very small pie. We did not become a
Yeah.
very successful band or a very popular band. We have a very limited amount of success for a very short amount of time. You know what I mean? I'm not calling you from my mansion on a, while driving my Rolls Royce, or, you know what I mean? I never really had,
Yeah.
I've whatever.
Yeah.
But the idea was that, that there was a lot of attention, brought to the place, because I think at the time, at least I can speak for myself, I consciously wanted to share the scene we came from. You know what I mean? It was very important to me to
Yeah, of
talk about
course.
where we came from, because I thought that was, I don't know, I maybe incorrectly had the assumption that everybody wanted similar type of attention that I was looking for, from playing music. And
Yeah.
wouldn't it be great if everyone knew about these bands we were playing with, because we were all working so hard and sleeping on floors and making $0. Like, if there was any opportunity to share that attention, I did not want to keep it for myself. I think in a, what I believed was a selfless, sort of like community enrichment sort of idea, to share
Yeah.
that attention and pass that spotlight around, so that it wasn't just on us. And and I don't know, it wasn't necessarily, there was some negative side to that too, which, at the time I was like, oh wow. But again, it's, I was young and naive and maybe not as sensitive to others, points of view, as I would
But
later grow up to be.
that's
But
not
it's
your
okay.
job though.
Yeah.
That's not your job. I mean, I think that
Yeah.
that happens everywhere. It happens in art, and it happens like, with the gallery starts, and then one or two people get more attention than others, and usually it is because of I, usually it's because of focus. I mean,
Hmm.
honestly, it's like people call it like, oh well, you're being what was the word that you said, that you're being
Marketed.
ambitious.
Yeah.
It's like ambitious is one thing, but a lot of times it's just like someone who's very focused and can be like, oh, I can see where this can go. I can actually see myself 2 years from now doing this, this, and this. And they're focused and they stay on that path to do those things and talk to those people instead of like doing things kind of randomly or having fun or whatever. And I think that that happens everywhere, and you can't I mean, if you're focused and ambitious, I think gets looked at negatively sometimes, but that it's more of like staying focused and going like, huh, do I want to keep doing this? Well, here's how you learn how the thing works. You learn who kind of has control over certain things, and you meet all the booking agents and you meet all the people at the venues, and you learn to be nice, and you learn to work with people, and you learn you
Yeah.
learn all those things, and you're like, no, because I want to be able to keep doing this. And then if other people aren't that focused or ambitious and they start getting left behind, then it gets being like, well, I was supposed to do that. Like, well, there's no supposed to. uh you
Yeah.
like, it's hard, it's really difficult, and
Well,
like I've gotten left behind multiple times in multiple things, and been in that position of like, wait, why
it's
am
next in
I
line.
not doing
What
that
it's
thing? I was
assumed.
supposed to be doing that
Yeah.
thing. And then you realize like, well, yeah, I wasn't very focused.
Hmm.
I was like worrying about day-to-day stuff instead of going, is this the right move for like 6 months from now, or am I just trying to do a thing now and not thinking about the future of what that could turn into, and that's just, I
Yeah.
don't know, it's business or it's focus or it's survival or it's whatever it is. I think
Yeah.
I think you guys
Well,
did a great thing. I mean, I remember seeing you guys open for Pavement and Sonic Youth at the Hollywood Bowl, and then watch it, which by the way, I know we've talked about this, but that's the first place where I really understood and became a fan of Pavement. Because before that, I didn't
that's
understand them
incredible. Yeah.
at all. I didn't understand what everybody loved about them until I saw them play live and went, "Oh, wow." And then I went back and listened to everything. But at the Hollywood Bowl, when Sonic Youth was on, and um, Thurston Moore goes, "Everybody go to the Smell." And I was like, "Oh shit. Wow. Okay. Here's the top."
that's what the top of the wave looks
Here's the
like. Yeah.
peak.
It all comes crashing down from
Just hit the
here.
peak.
Yeah. Well,
but it was amazing, because that makes sense, because that's because the Sonic Youth was kind of that band in New York that was
they were champions,
super ambitious.
Yeah.
And they always brought the weirdos and the noise bands and the brought people on stage and brought people with them on tour, and always championed all that stuff,
Totally.
And I don't know, what are you gonna do? It's not your responsibility.
The funny part on that is I remember when he said that, and I was standing next to Jim, who runs the Smell, who is not, for all intents and purposes the Smell, who runs it. And
the Smell.
I remember looking at him like, whoa, look at that. And he's like, no, don't go there. We're closed. We're like, I'm not there. I don't have to I'm here at the show.
Yeah.
Don't go to the Smell after this. I'm not going to be there. I'm not going to be able to open the doors. And he just kind of looked at me like, oh no. I'm like, I don't think anyone's going to the Smell. Don't worry. All of Hollywood Bowl is not going to flood out of this parking lot and go downtown.
Go to the Smell.
Yeah.
Go to the Smell. We're walking to the Smell.
Yeah, this is not happening. Yeah, I think that was a nice shout out from the stage, but nobody's going there after this.
Yeah,
but I think he also shout out go see John Weiss at the Smell, because he was I think Thurston was a fan of John's. He was like a noise musician. Right. It was awesome. But and then Jim was like, I don't even think John's in town. I think he's on tour. I don't know. Jim had this very pragmatic sort of that is all incorrect, Thurston. Do not tell people to go do that, because that show's not happening. He's not going to be playing for another 3 months.
Yeah. Let me go over my calendar in my head.
Yeah. I think Jim, but again, Jim, like a good, organized person who could keep a venue going for decades. He was like, this causes a logical problem. I need to consult the calendar in order to figure this out. But Thurston had played the Smell as well. I think he was one of those kind of people that he wasn't just talking shit. He actually knew, and he was supportive of underground stuff. And I think ultimately, a hero and a sort of a model for myself as well. That idea, if you were to get the attention that Sonic Youth got, I would hope that we'd be able to do the same thing they did and bring out cool bands and play cool venues and do cool stuff and have side projects and definitely support other people doing things and use whatever attention we were getting to sort of champion other people and to share that spotlight and share that thing. If people wanted it. So it's a funny one looking back on all that.
Totally.
Sorry, that was a total sidetrack. But one thing I was going to say with the thing about just the granular sort of subgenres of things, I think there was something we were talking about that earlier, and it was really funny. I was talking to a dad at a Cub Scout meeting. Another dad, he plays music, and he's like, I was like, oh, I went and saw this band, and he's like, oh, what kind of? Or no, I was recording this band Lifeguard that I produced their record. It'll come out sometime next year, but we're and in that moment, again, it was like you were defining a sound, and we're looking to do something very specific in creating a record. And the role as producer is to sort of really define that and help sort of shape it in those kind of ways. And so we were in deep discussions about what kind of record they wanted to make and what sort of snare sound they wanted, what sort of guitar sound, and you just use references and the sort of stuff. And so the dad, and then the next week I go to a Cub Scout meeting, and I was like, so what were you up to? Like, oh, I recorded a band. Like, what kind of music is it? And then I think I made the mistake, and I went in and kind of shared this whole thing, and it was like, well, it's post-punk. And again, I should have just said they're a punk band. They're a cool band. I should have just left it at that. Yeah. But I was like, oh, they're like a post-punk band. And he's like, well, what does that mean? He's like, is that like pop punk? I'm like, no. And then I got offended. Then I was like, this suddenly the 16-year-old, like, are you fucking like, kidding me? Are you fucking with me here? Like, no, post-punk is a very unique genre of punk rock that occurred in England and New York a little bit, like post 77 till about 82 before new wave would come in. But there was a very, like, have you ever heard of Magazine? Have you ever heard of This Heat? It's a kind of like experimental nature that grew out of the, straight ahead punk rock. And it's just looking at me like, no, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. I'm like, oh,
he's
sorry.
like,
I was like, I don't know, man.
I knew
He's
I
like,
shouldn't have asked.
Yeah. but he was just like, well, what about this? And what about this thing? What about that thing? And I'm just like, I don't know, man. I didn't make up these words. I don't know. Some music journalist wrote all this stuff 40 years ago. Like, it doesn't really matter. I don't know. Sorry. I'm going off on this stuff. I had to catch myself because I was, going down to this road. I was like, Joy Division? Have you heard Joy Division? Like, they're probably a great, definition of post-punk, because goth wasn't really a thing. And, they certainly weren't, they're from the punk scene, but not really of the punk scene prior. I think if we were to look for a post-punk band, one could argue that, Joy Division would be an easy sort of defining sound that you would know. And he's like, oh, I think they're like this. I'm like, okay, I don't know, but sorry, man. Like, I can't help you. I'm not sure what I'm trying to do here. Like, this is just God. the thing I was given. Oh, and then the other thing we were talking about too, like, and even, like, about just the, that, as you get older, those types of emotions that you feel and all that stuff, are just sort of how you can, like, get through different things, as years go on. Like, we just saw Inside Out 2 with the kids. This, and as we're driving there, because it's all in, there's like the emotions or things, and like, oh, what's your favorite emotion from the first movie, and what's your, like, and Ryder's like, I think they have all these new emotions like anxiety and embarrassment and something. We were talking about stuff, and then and Ryder was trying to ask me, he was like, well, Dad, like, do you still have emotions as, like, and I was like, oh, well, those are new emotions you get as an adolescent. I bet the character is growing and there's new emotions or complicated emotions that sort of start to come up as you're growing. He's like, well, what about parents? Like, do you guys still and I was like, no, we all feel a lot less as you get older. Like, all of our emotions have dimmed, and we've learned to subjugate a lot of the emotional responses to most things. It's like, do you still feel things? Like,
there's none left up there, Dad?
And I was like, no. I was like,
frustration.
There's some
frustration. There's the.
But then he asked, he's like, well, what about embarrassment? Like, do you still feel embarrassment? I'm like, oh God, no. Embarrassment went away. Like, as soon as you turn 40, the level of embarrassment gets turned down significantly. Like, I walk around with zero fucks. I didn't tell him that, but in general, like, the level of, like, of being embarrassed. Like, I feel too old to be embarrassed for any reason. It has to be really, it'd be something the kids would do that would embarrass me. I think we've talked about that. Like, don't make me look like a bad parent. That'd be the biggest thing I'd be embarrassed about. But I didn't want to tell them.
No, you bring on embarrassment.
Yeah, you embarrass me. You embarrass the family.
Let that sink in, kid.
Yeah. But I thought that was definitely a funny one. Just try to think about all those emotions. I was like, I guess, yeah, I have emotions, but I don't think I'm as in touch with them at all times as I was at your age and even throughout my 20s. I think somehow a lot of them just start to dim, and you just kind of pull the levers on the ones that you need at the time.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So as you become older, you slowly hide them. And they find little hiding places.
Yes.
That they feel very comfortable, and they hide away in different places. Yeah. And then sometimes they come back, but when they come back, they kind of come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And you go, and a lot of times it's when you have kids, and once you have kids, you realized how easily you buried everything into different places.
Yes.
And you kind of forgot about them because you found ways to live your life where a lot of those emotions didn't have to come out. But now
it's a little thing called bottling up your emotions. The good ones, the bad ones, they all just go into this little bottle, and you carry it in the pit of your stomach. And then you watch a clip of Modern Family from 15 years ago, and you just start bawling for no reason. Like, are you happy? Are you sad? Right. Are you any nostalgic? Right. You don't even know what it is. But suddenly Ty Burrell just said something as a father. You're just like, I'm losing it. I'm like fucking crying. My nose is running. Like, oh God, okay, these emotions are coming out.
And as you have kids, the kids break the bottle wide open, and they all just start swimming around in your head with nowhere to go.
Yeah.
And
then
so
your
then
kids
you
look at you
spend
like
the
you're
next
insane.
10 to 20 years trying to find places for them in your head, right?
I'm happy, I'm
That's
sad,
what
I
I
don't
found.
know. There's so many
Yeah.
things. Oh,
Yeah, I know
it's insane.
when Lila was about, I don't know, months old,
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I thought I got rid of a lot of this anger and frustration. Where did I just turns out I just hid it somewhere and I never
Yeah.
dealt with it.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you
That's a big one.
start taking away a good night's sleep for months at a time, and then years at a time of really
Yeah.
affecting your sleep. You'll notice that weakens the bottle that you keep your emotions in. Like, I have no sleep. I
Yeah.
can't really figure out how to eat right. I have no time
Yeah.
to go to the
And
bathroom. I
you're
just
like, wait, no one told me I was going to have to think about the longevity of my life consistently every single day for the rest of my life. Of like,
Mm-hmm.
how is this going to affect my future? I never had to think about that.
Yeah. Not every day and every
Now I do.
second for the
Every
rest of your
day.
life. Yep. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's one of those fun little gifts you get. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's a good one.
Well,
Turns out
bothering,
it's a
yeah,
good way. It's a good way to to uh, work things out
yes,
if you're willing to take it on.
yeah. Well, you should go listen to Bothering the Band. They do not talk about these things.
Yes.
They
Yeah.
ask very very safe questions to very random bands that you may or may not have heard of, and you
Good.
get very
I like
polite
that.
conversation. Yeah, no, it's a good way to discover
Yeah.
bands. I've
That's
definitely
nice.
learned of bands that I'd never heard of before, which is fun, and it's a fun thing to get to do at this
That's
age.
awesome.
But I remember, I think I talk about it in the thing though, but I remember when I did the live thing, I was just so desperate to go anywhere. And they asked, you know, it was the middle of pandemic and they're like, do you want to come do a live podcast? And I was like, yes, yeah, absolutely. I'll go. And then, you know, they had 20 people show up, but everybody was willing, just like, yes, I'm desperate to do anything right now. I don't care what it is.
Yeah. Please.
Let's go to a cheesy bar in Hollywood and just sit on stage. So I think we had like 20 people on stage, but he went down the row one by one and just asked everybody the same question. Like, what's your favorite color? What's your favorite color? What's your favorite? I'm like, oh no, like, this is what the next hour is going to be?
Yeah.
Like, I really did
I
not
love
know
that
what to expect.
I love their honesty about talking about that event too. And like, oh no, we asked a bunch of people thinking like half of you would say yes. And every single person said yes. And then we did not want to say no to anybody. So we were just like, well, let's see how this goes.
I think they underestimated
I
two
just love
things.
things
Yeah.
like that.
They underestimated the
Yeah.
two things. Like, one was the size of people's egos and their need to be acknowledged in Los Angeles. You know, you come to LA and you want to interview anybody, it's far easier than you could have ever imagined. And number two, that everyone was looking for anything to do. There was no events going on at that time. There was nothing happening.
Right.
There was no reason to leave the house. Like, we were actively told not to leave the house. So if it's something slightly resembled work and there was a way to massage your ego, everybody was going to say yes. Like, yeah, do you want to come be interviewed live? Like, yes, please, get me out of the house. Yeah. Tell me I'm still important. Tell me I still matter. All of live music has gone down. I can't go anywhere. My whole career has been put in the shitter. Like, yes, if I can feel important for an hour outside of the house, that sounds great. So I think that's what everybody showed up to do. And then we got peppered with, if you were a dog, what kind of dog food would you eat? I'm like, huh? What was the name of the street you grew up on? What was the what was your mother's maiden name? And that's why I started to think, I was like, they're definitely fishing for like password questions. These are like, you know, what was the name of your best friend growing up? What was your dad's favorite
what
sport?
bank did you recently walk to?
Yes. Which one of these addresses are your most recent address?
Makes sense.
Like, wait a second, I'm being fished.
Is that the meaning of life though, is to try to find something to do that when you go out, when you leave your house for an hour, you feel important?
I mean,
I think
that's one way to define it. Yes.
Like, I want to go somewhere where I can leave the house for 1 hour and feel important.
Like I matter. Like whatever I'm doing, whatever my next hour I do, it's going to make any impact on anybody outside of my family.
Yeah. All I want to do is matter for 1 hour a day.
That sounds about right.
Just want to matter for 1 hour a day.
If you're questioning what to do with your life and you don't know which direction to take, find the thing that makes you feel like you're important outside of your house. There are a lot of things you can do inside your house that are very important, but if you're ever able to feel like you're important outside of your house to people who are not related to you, that is a good place to be. Yeah.
It's a good place to be. Maybe that's a good place to end this.
Yes.
For 1 hour.
Yes.
Did we feel important for 1 hour?
Yeah. Well, we are both very much inside of our houses, so I think this does not count.
Well, yeah.
Well,
technically we're on the internet, so that's like
I see.
That's
Yes.
outside of the house.
We are in somebody's ears right now on a train or in a plane or in a car or in a box with a fox.
We could be anywhere, Randy.
In a house with a mouse.
Yes.
I've had too much Dr. Seuss recently. Sorry. All right. Well, that sounds good. That's a good place to leave it. Stephen McDonald coming up this Thursday. Red Cross has a new record coming out, and everyone should go buy it. You can pre-order it now if you go to intheredrecords.com or go to redcross.com. And the Red Cross, do you want to spell it? It's REDDCRO, only one O, but two S's, two D's and two S's with a K. So redcross.com. And you can go buy their record. You know what the record is called? It's called Red Cross.
Red Cross.
REDDCROSS.
It's amazing.
I may or may not have just recorded the intro for that episode very, very recently. Yep.
Nice.
Awesome, man.